If you've spent any time watching organizations grow, could be companies, nonprofits, even churches, you kind of notice a strange pattern sometimes. You might see two groups, pretty similar on the surface, maybe, same budget, same goals, same strategy to start. But one just seems to thrive. It adapts, grows year after year, even when senior people move on. The other one, well, it just collapses the moment that one really critical leader leaves. Why does that happen?
Yeah, it's a common frustration. And look, it's not really about resources, not usually. It's definitely not just luck. What our sources are pointing to, the real engine of, let's say, enduring influence. The difference between lasting success and, well, collapse. It's this idea of leadership multiplication.
Leadership multiplication, okay.
Yeah, it's the core concept of building a system where every single leader you develop becomes like a catalyst for raising up maybe 2, 3, 4 more leaders.
So it's like a chain reaction, exponential.
Exactly. And what the research really underscores is that leadership isn't just a one-time thing, an achievement or a title you hang on to. It's fundamentally a generational responsibility.
Generational.
Okay,
Yeah.
which is why when you look at a lot of conventional development programs, the annual checklists, the generic courses, they often miss the mark. They fail because they treat leadership like it's just procedural, a task, something you can learn from a spreadsheet.
Right, it's instead of a relationship.
Exactly, instead of a deeply relational journey. And that failure leads directly to what some call the hero leader problem.
Oh, yeah, the indispensable person.
Right. You end up building this structure that's totally dependent on one charismatic individual, which inevitably leads to stagnant growth. And maybe worse, a really fragile succession plan.
So you end up with organizations built for what? Accumulation.
Precisely. Accumulation,
Well,
where the leader maybe unconsciously just hoards power and followers, instead of multiplication, where the leader is intentionally delegating, reproducing their capacity in others.
okay, let's unpack this then. Our mission for this deep dive is to really look at what seems like an ancient blueprint for building that kind of self-renewing engine of growth. We're drawing heavily on some really interesting relational wisdom in these source documents. And the goal is to translate that framework into something modern, something actionable, a pipeline you can actually start implementing maybe even this week.
And to really succeed with this, you absolutely have to embrace that core mindset shift first, leadership. It's a relay race. It's not a solo sprint.
Okay.
The goal isn't just retention, keeping people locked in. It's reproduction. We're not trying to keep everyone forever. We're trying to empower them to lead effectively, wherever they end up. And we actually find this principle articulated way back in some of the oldest leadership case studies. Think about Moses in the book of Numbers. When the burden of leading that whole nation just became overwhelming, totally unsustainable, the instruction wasn't work harder or get a better org chart.
Right.
God told Moses to select 70 elders intentionally to share the weight. That's the paradigm shift. True leadership isn't measured by how many people report to you or follow you personally. It's measured by how many people you empower, how many you equip to lead alongside you.
And when organizations miss that, when they focus only on accumulation, the result seems pretty predictable. You said stagnant growth, fragile succession.
Yeah, and you're constantly just fighting fires, filling gaps instead of actually building scalable capacity for the future.
That fragile structure means the whole organization risks falling behind, not just competitively, but culturally too, right? Because decision-making gets stuck at the top.
Absolutely. And what's really fascinating here is how the source material connects this idea of multiplication directly to servanthood.
Yeah.
It argues that true leadership pipelines only really flourish when leaders deeply internalize that authority is actually service.
Service, not power.
Right. Think about the example of Jesus in Mark's gospel. He completely reframed leadership. He said, the greatest among you must be your servant. Now that's revolutionary. It transforms environments. It shifts them from these typical hierarchies of power where everyone's jockeying for position into intentional ecosystems of empowerment.
That's basically the polar opposite of the rock star CEO complex we sometimes see today, where authority is all about personal charisma and the spotlight.
Exactly. Not about delegated responsibility and genuine service.
Okay, so that mindset shift, that's foundational. And it leads us, you're saying, directly to maybe the clearest operational blueprint for actually doing this multiplication. You mentioned it's captured really succinctly in the source material, specifically in 2 Timothy 2.2.
That's the one. It's incredibly concise. The instruction is to entrust to reliable people who will also be qualified to teach others.
Wow. Like an entire organizational strategy in one sentence.
Pretty much. It explicitly lays out a 4-generation multiplication model. It identifies the chain, not just for passing on instructions, but for reproduction.
Okay, break that down. The 4 generations.
Sure. You've got 1, Paul. He's the apostolic mentor, the source, the originator. 2, Timothy. He's the trained protege, the immediate person receiving the investment. 3, the reliable people. These are the next wave of leaders, the ones Timothy's supposed to train. And 4, the others. That's the future generation, the ones the reliable people will eventually teach.
Paul to Timothy, Timothy to reliable people to others. 4 links in the chain.
Exactly. And the immense power of this structure is its exponential impact. It's designed for multiplication, not just simple addition. I mean, do the math quickly. If one leader invests deeply in, say, 3 people,
Okay.
and those 3 are then expected to each invest in 3 more, well, that's 9 new leaders in that third wave.
Right.
By the time you get to the 4th generation, you could easily have 81 leaders whose core values and skills trace back to that original mentor.
Okay, mathematically, that generational model makes perfect sense. It's compelling. But let's be real. Translating 2 Timothy 2.2 into, the Monday morning team meeting, that feels like the challenge. Investing that deeply, life on life, in 3 people, who then invest in 3 more. That sounds incredibly time-intensive. How do the sources suggest we balance that kind of deep relational investment with, the reality of quarterly deadlines and just high-speed organizational demand?
That's the tension, isn't it? And that friction is exactly why most leadership programs, frankly, fall short. They don't make space for it. The sources really emphasize that you must prioritize depth over just speed or scale initially. The key insight for building this kind of resilience, what the sources sometimes call the echo of faith, is making sure the system is anchored in character, anchored in timeless truth, not just based on one charismatic personality or, checking off items on a task list.
Right. The resilience comes from the depth.
Exactly, because the investment is deep and it's fundamentally relational.
Okay, so what does this look like in, day-to-day action? How do we build this pipeline? The sources lay out a pretty clear, repeatable 4-step framework, right, for turning potential into that kind of perpetual influence. This is the map.
That's right, the pipeline map to move from addition to multiplication.
Okay, step 1 is identify, or, as the sources put it, call out. The action here is about looking beyond maybe the loudest voice or the most obviously charismatic person in the room. You're actually looking for core character traits, faithfulness, availability, and a genuinely teachable spirit, like how Timothy is described as having sincere faith.
Yeah, and the pitfall here is so common, favoring that surface charisma over deep character. Charisma might sell an idea in the short term, sure, but it's character that sustains leadership through tough times over the long haul. So you need to identify, maybe, the quiet, dependable project manager who consistently puts the team first, not just the eloquent presenter who might hog the credit.
Makes sense. Okay, step 2 is invest. Or train up. And this has to be intentional, right? Personalized, like life-on-life mentoring and apprenticeship. You actually have to pour your life into them, not just, give them access to a shared folder of resources.
Absolutely. And this investment, critically, requires a balance. You have to integrate character development, the spiritual formation side, the heart, right alongside the practical skill development, the competence.
Heart and competence together.
You need both. It's like commissioning a nuclear reactor engineer. You don't just look at their technical blueprints, their hands. You desperately need to know about their commitment to safety protocols, their heart. Because honestly, one without the other is potentially catastrophic.
That's a powerful analogy. Okay, step 3 is empower or send out. This feels like where a lot of pipelines might stall out.
Definitely.
You have to delegate real responsibility and authority, not just symbolic tasks to make them feel involved.
Yeah, it's the difference between asking a developing leader to, say, organize the office Christmas party, which is nice, but symbolic, versus giving them full control over a new department's budget and challenging them to hire their own team. That's real authority.
Huge difference.
Think back to that ancient example of Jesus sending the disciples out in pairs. They were given actual authority to act, and they were told to rely on it. The key to growth here for the mentor is resisting that powerful urge to micromanage.
Oh, it's hard.
It is. But the mentor's role has to shift. It goes from doing the work with them to mostly watching, guiding, and providing feedback. If you don't consciously step back, they simply can't step up.
Right. You have to let them maybe even stumble a bit.
Within safe boundaries, yes.
Yeah.
That's part of learning.
Okay, and then step 4, the crucial culmination, is multiply. or reproducing.
Hmm.
Because if multiplication isn't the final step, you haven't built an ecosystem, right? You've just created a really effective, but maybe ultimately limited, training program.
Exactly. You must explicitly charge the newly empowered leaders. It needs to be part of their mandate to identify, invest in, and develop new leaders themselves.
So it becomes part of their job description.
Precisely. Reproduction has to become the intentional assignment. And critically, it should be the litmus test of their success as a leader. If a leader manages a great team, hits all their targets, but consistently fails to raise up the next level of leadership from within that team, then in this model, they're still an accumulator, however effective. They're not yet a multiplier.
Wow, that's a high bar.
It is. But this final step is what transforms the entire pipeline from just a series of individual achievements into that sustainable, self-renewing generational ecosystem we talked about.
Okay, 4 steps. Identify, invest, empower, multiply.
But for this pipeline to actually work effectively, we obviously need pretty sharp discernment along the way. We need to assess readiness, but holistically, moving beyond just superficial metrics like, did they hit their sales target this quarter?
Right, you need a deeper assessment.
Yeah. The sources detail a really practical conversational 4-axis tool, often referred to as the 4 H's. It's used to evaluate leaders before you entrust them with significant new responsibility, that next step up.
The 4 H's, okay, this gives us a common language for coaching, right?
Yeah.
And ensures we're looking at the whole person, not just their current job title.
Exactly. So first is heart. That's character. This looks at things like integrity, humility, faithfulness. And it's often revealed, isn't it, in how a leader handles conflict, or navigates success, or responds to failure.
Yeah, how they act under pressure.
Right. Are they consistent when the pressure's on, maybe when no one's watching? That's heart.
Okay, the second H.
Second is hands. That's competence. This is the practical side. Can they do the job? Strategic execution, delegation skills, the actual nuts and bolts needed. The sources mention Nehemiah, who was clearly a master strategic planner, building that wall under immense pressure.
Right, he got it done.
He did. But competence needs to be paired with wisdom. It's not just raw skill, it's applied skill. Can they actually deliver the project, build the team, manage the budget effectively?
Heart, hands. Got it. Third.
Third is head. This is conviction. This domain covers their deep foundational knowledge, their ability to articulate the vision clearly, discernment. Think of Joshua in the sources, meditating on the law. He was anchored in the foundational text, the core principles of his community.
So for us today, that means the leader isn't just chasing the latest management fad.
Exactly. Are they anchored in the core mission statement, the organizational values? Do they check their big decisions against that foundational text? That conviction ensures they're not easily swayed by every new trend that blows through.
Okay, heart, hands, head. And the fourth H.
Fourth is habits. Discipline. This looks at consistency, resilience, balance, those non-negotiable, maybe often unseen disciplines that actually produce sustained leadership fruit over time. We look at Daniel's steadfast prayer life as an ancient example. In a modern context, this translates to things like, do they maintain reasonably healthy work-life boundaries? Or are they constantly burning out themselves and their team? Are they genuinely committed to lifelong learning? Or do they think they've arrived? Do they have the personal resilience to handle setbacks without, completely falling apart?
Heart, hands, head, habits. Okay, that's a really well-rounded picture. Now here's the practical bit. How do we use this? The sources give a kind of rule of thumb, right?
Yeah, there's an actionable nugget. The idea is to use this conversational tool, these 4 H's, as part of your regular mentor reviews, maybe every 3 to 6 months, something like that. And the general decision rule, according to the sources, is that if someone is clearly ready in, say, 3 of the 4 areas, and the 4th area is maybe rated developing, but crucially, there's a clear, defined plan in place for growth in that area, then often that leader can be entrusted with a significant stretch assignment. You don't necessarily need 4 perfect, ready ratings across the board.
Right, you need overall readiness and a clear commitment to growth where needed, not perfection.
Exactly. Alignment and commitment to growth. And critically, as mentors, we have to avoid the trap of clone making.
Good point.
Mentors should never be seeking to just replicate their own personality or their specific leadership style. That's limiting. The goal is to encourage unique, spirit-led leadership in the mentee, nurturing diversity within a framework of shared values. Because if you only raise leaders who look, sound, and think exactly like you, well, you seriously limit your organization's ability to adapt and innovate down the road.
That is so important. And one final point on that, maybe the sources also emphasize raising up indigenous leadership, right?
Right. Yes, absolutely crucial. Whenever possible, identifying and developing leaders from within the specific community or cultural context they're intended to serve. Those internal leaders, they possess an inherent trust, a cultural fluency. It ensures a level of long-term commitment and sustainability that an external hire, no matter how skilled, often struggles to achieve.
Right. Makes perfect sense. Okay, wow. We've covered a massive amount of really crucial ground here. We went from that essential mindset shift thinking multiplication, not just accumulation, all the way to the ancient blueprint we see in that 2 Timothy model. And then we translated that into a modern, actionable framework using those 4 steps: identify, invest, empower, multiply, and the holistic 4-H assessment axis: heart, hands, head, habits.
It's a lot, but it connects.
It really does. And the promise is that this kind of intentional, deeply relational approach results in more resilient teams, more adaptive organizations, and ultimately an enduring legacy that goes far beyond any single individual's tenure or accomplishments.
Absolutely. When you boil it all down, this entire pipeline process is really about generational faithfulness. It's about the intentional stewardship of the potential God places in people. It's about actively cultivating an ecosystem of influence that ensures the mission, the purpose, continues and grows long after we're gone, regardless of who happens to hold the formal titles today.
Okay, so let's end with this provocative thought for everyone listening, drawing directly from that lamp bearer concept mentioned in our sources.
Okay.
If your current leadership were symbolized by just a single flame, are you currently focused mostly on guarding your own oil in your own match, just keeping your personal light burning bright? Or are you actively handing out lamps, handing out wicks, investing your energy and resources into ensuring the entire town, your entire organization, is well lit long after your own flame naturally goes out? What is the single most powerful act of surrender required for you to start building that multiplying legacy, maybe starting today?